just been the honor of a lifetime. I think any young person, any little girl, you get to put on a Disney princess dress.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
It's just been the most amazing experience.
Weird.
From D23, we now have new footage of Snow White, where Rachel Zegler seems to be turning dwarves into her own personal slaves.
Now you wash the dishes, tidy up the room, clean those cobwebs.
Gone are the days where Snow White does some cleaning for once in her life. Now in 2024, the age of I'm too posh to push, they're also too posh to clean as well.
And he'll use the broom.
You compare that to the original, and like that Star Wars girl showed, and Savvy said, listen to the delivery, the tone, the change in language.
Now you wash the dishes.
You tidy up the room is delivered entirely differently.
You tidy up the room.
The older one is like, you tidy up the room, whereas Zegler is above them all. She's not here to help them, she's here to command and order. You tidy up the room. You go and do the fireplace. You use the broom.
And I'll use the broom.
Because that way she's in command. She's a leader.
She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Bossing around the menfolk. Compared to the original, where it was more motherly.
What a cute little chair. Must be 7 little children.
Led to the house because she needed a place to stay. She thought orphan children lived there and felt bad they didn't have a mother.
You'd think their mother would. Maybe they have no mother. Then they're orphans.
So she thought she'd clean the house and surprise them.
We'll clean the house and surprise them. Then maybe they'll let me stay.
Where in the modern movie, what's she even for? What can she possibly provide? Let's face it, if Snow White isn't paying the dwarves in rent by cooking and cleaning, I'm going to assume she's staging a gangbang. But this Snow White movie, from its very inception, has been surrounded in drama. Then again, they did employ Rachel Zegler. This seems to happen in her movies.
Do you speak the language? Does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Do you eat the food? Does it matter?
You have a way with words.
No.
Word vomit.
Not only was there the return of the drama of who is the fairest of them all, or as somebody else said, for this to make sense, the mirror must have an astigmatism and be nearsighted. But it also faced controversy because it failed to meet fan expectations. And Rachel Zegler decided that she was going to talk about divisive political issues in far-flung countries, immediately underneath her advertising for the movie. Issues which her co-star is on the other side of. That's got to be one awkward set, hasn't it? Frankly, I don't even know why Rachel cares, being Polish after all. Personally, I can't wait for her next opinion about a topic she knows nothing about. Well, except that
we need to stand on the right side of history.
Maybe that's why some people were analysing the interview footage, and how her and Gal tend to have very different expressions within them. She's just like me, for real, for reals. And the dwarves look just as bad moving about the screen as they did in the original picture. They are, to put it mildly, utter nightmares, wibbling around their woodland cabin like sentient bags of blancmange. This is all on top of the original controversy, such as Peter Dinklage deciding, no, you shouldn't have dwarves in that movie.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave.
It's been quite a while since the previous Snow White drama. They let everything die down until Disney were forced to release another trailer. The gap didn't really help them though, did it, when it received massive backlash, hundreds of thousands of YouTube dislikes. Fans aren't happy at all with Disney's live-action version. Maybe it's because of her hair. I have absolutely no idea why they've given Snow White this hairstyle, especially when in the parks they have wigs that just give them the proper hair. Although when it comes to Prince Charming, maybe be more careful how you wave hello. And Disney needed that gap. They had to try and save things, because this is a very, very expensive production for them. It started where up to July 31st, 2022, Disney had spent $209.3 million. Although later, the Daily Mail reported that it was actually $330 million. Well, the film was supposed to have already released by now, but has actually been delayed till March next year, apparently due to the strike. Although really, it's gone through so many rounds of reshoots in that time. What we're going to get in 2025 probably isn't the same movie. I mean, I don't know if you noticed from the trailer,
The fairest.
the rather suspicious lack of characters that we've seen previously. Someone had kicked the local homeless out of Starbucks, and they were going off to invade the next local village. No, now, after that kind of budget, Disney, no doubt, wants to avoid all drama. They're desperately spinning their wheels, realizing they've pissed everybody off. And please, sir, can I just get my money back?
More
Unfortunately, even with reshoots, I'm not sure you can save this turkey. Disney's terrible-looking live-action remakes are the stuff of nightmares. Rather than honouring their predecessors, these remakes are simply wringing them dry for revenue, and let artistry and history be damned. Its problems began a year ago with Rachel Zegler's comments about the original being extremely dated.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, therefore it's extremely dated.
Its ideas about women being in roles of power.
Dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
We'll clean the house and surprise them. Then maybe they'll let me stay.
And weird love stories involving a guy who literally stalks her.
Love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
They're just out of step with the modern world. Yes, because as the modern world embraces evil, what you want is things which are out of step with the modern world. This isn't complicated. First, you tell Disney fans that the films they loved as children were crap anyway, because that's always a great defense. It was always crap. Okay, even if it was, have you considered making something that isn't? Even if you want to claim that all the original source material that people like were crap, how are you still managing to make something worse than it? If the old stuff was crap, it should be easy to improve on, and you still can't manage that.
At the end of the day, this is the story of representation, and it matters.
All you're doing in that case is just helping my argument that you shouldn't be employed. I'm telling you, that argument is not going to save your job. And second, because the general way in which time works, this is showing the Telegraph's view of history that, you know, modern things are better, older things are worse, and we're just advancing through time towards the promised land. We never could have made a mistake at any point in history that just led us down a horrific path of evil. We couldn't have done that. No, the future's better. The future's bright. The future's orange.
The future's bright. The future's orange.
Sorry, flashback to childhood adverts there. Who says advertising dollars don't leave an impact on you? No, films made before the Second World War don't tend to be that big on early 21st century girl boss feminism.
What are they for? Look at the chubby little bastards just sitting around everywhere.
Back then, Hollywood hadn't yet embraced the most evil ideology of all time, responsible for more deaths than anything else in all of human history. But Disney, they sure will now. I've remade it, and boy, do I have some evil for you.
All of the people were angry.
Like, those people that we need to educate, love into awareness.
Love them in the right direction.
No, instead, the trailer opened up with the portrayal of the seven dwarfs themselves. Originally believed that it first featured live-action actors of mixed heights in these crucial roles. I have a feeling they're talking about them. But rather than weather the storm over representation this would have stoked, strangely, in this regard, the storm would have been, I thought you cared about representation. It turns out you don't. You just want to put creepy weirdos into roles, don't you? How can we make Snow White look like a load of circus freaks leading a revolution against the bedroom tax? Does such an approach dispel stereotypes about shorter actors? There's going to be a lot of this, by the way. Nobody wants to use the word dwarf for some reason. These aren't just short people, it's a medical condition. It's fine. You don't have to pretend that they're just the same as everybody else. The argument has been dodged, though, as it just all replace them with CGI people. As glimpsed in the trailer, they are, to put it mildly, utter nightmares, wibbling around their woodland cabin like sentient bags of blancmange. The 22-second extended version of the trailer offers a longer look at a terrifyingly vacant dopey. It does nothing to allay the nerves.
I cannot even believe those words just came out of your face towards my face.
There's still time for emergency tweaking, if only to avoid a cat-style debacle. But in a sense, it might not be worth the trouble. Why not just spend the money on something else? Deadpool and Wolverine and Inside Out 2 have put the beleaguered studio back on top. But could Snow White and Mufasa end the winning streak? No. That's going to be Agatha all along. I mean, this trailer was so bad, even the Mary Sue came out and had to say it backfired on them because it renewed CGI controversy. Snow White woes just keep piling up, like the strange decision to cast Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Not because it's very obvious to anyone with eyeballs who's fairer between the two of them, but because the actress has been embroiled in controversy over far-flung countries, although this was written on the 12th of August, before Rachel Zegler decided to do the same thing. Although no doubt Mary Sue would have approved.
We need to stand on the right side of history.
No, other controversy involved vocal bigots who were enraged that Rachel Zegler was cast because she broke all references of the source material. She received tons of backlash from moral pundits who began commenting, as they always do, when Hollywood destroys the law. They also talk about the dwarf controversy, after Peter Dinklage called it backwards. However, there was a hope that Disney would modernize the story to avoid offending the dwarf community. They did. They used CGI. You can't get more modern than that. Now, I would have said if you wanted to not offend them, you could have given them jobs. Or just hired actors in general and then used camera trickery to make them look smaller. This would work the same way as the Hobbits, because one of the issues with being a dwarf in real life is that proportions can sometimes be off. And so depending what you're actually going for in a character as part of the source material, it is better to use camera trickery than anything else. But instead, the solution was to not hire actors like that at all, make them all CGI. Oh no, it's almost like our own evil has backfired on us. The dwarves are only briefly shown, but it doesn't look good. The CGI is terrible, and it gives them a very unnatural appearance. They're CGI dwarfs. Of course they look unnatural. They're CGI. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Now, personally, for me, if you want to call something a live-action remake, it has to actually be in live action. I don't want to see CGI characters in it at all. Actually, I had the same problem with The Little Mermaid. It turns out the majority of the movie wasn't even in live action. Other users described the dwarves' appearances as Uncanny Valley and the stuff of nightmares. This is truly embarrassing. Yes, but it's what you wanted. At no point do they analyze themselves and go, I wanted this. And yet, it's also crap. Maybe I'm wrong. No, it doesn't, no. Because analyzing whether you're wrong or not requires an abstraction of an idea, and they're incapable of doing that. That's just like one extra layer of complexity beyond them. No, I believe it, so it must be true. Many are blaming Dinklage's comments for the use of dwarves. However, Dinklage never suggested that the problem was with casting dwarves in the movie.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves.
I can't work out if you're lying or stupid. No, he didn't suggest that the problem was with casting dwarves. He actually suggested that the story was the problem and shouldn't be made at all. How are you going to hire dwarves in a movie that shouldn't be made? Explain that one to me. The problem was always with how Disney should handle the depiction of dwarves. Literally hard-working miners who help Snow White. What was the problem with their depiction? Exactly. There aren't many roles in Hollywood for individuals with dwarfism. That's why people have a problem with Dinklage doing this in the first place. Keep up. In fact, the studio likely had already made this decision before Dinklage spoke out. We'll get back to that. Oh, they just likely did it. Oh, I just pulled that out my arse and then started smearing it on a wall. I don't know, so I'm just going to say likely and then assume you don't know any better, because after all, you are reading the Mary Sue. It's not exactly the website for informed moral people. I've come here to see what the latest unhinged download is. But Screen Rant came out with, I think, the most optimistic title of all time. Disney's Snow White remake can break Rachel Zegler's trend. It might actually give Rachel Zegler a box office hit, because she's not had many of those. No, Rachel Zegler's previous movies haven't been overly lucrative. I don't know why. Rachel Zegler's career is a string of poor box office performers. And while this may not indicate the quality of production or her performance, it remains that she hasn't starred in a box office hit, although The Hunger Games does at least look as if it made a profit, even if it was the least successful installment in the franchise, by a considerable $300 million margin. Snow White could finally break this trend. I don't think there's enough masochists in the universe for it to break that trend. Given Snow White's popularity as a brand, although at the moment it looks like Disney think it's got a broken leg and plan to take it out back with a shotgun, certainly does for anyone looking for eye candy in this movie. They praised Gal Gadot's beauty and pointed out that she probably should have been the princess. Well, I mean, out of the two of them, I have no problem with her being the witch, as long as you had somebody that beat her as Snow White.
The fairest one of all.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest in this kingdom? The mirror must have an astigmatism and be nearsighted. Isn't Snow White supposed to be more beautiful? How jealous would the queen be if she was the beautiful one? Or what will the conflict of the story now be that it won't be for beauty? I don't know, with 2 women, it could be anything. Oh, you've got a Stanley Cup that I want. Give it here. Is Snow White going to get a poisoned apple because the queen thinks she gave her a funny look once? Despite Rachel Zegler saying that she was so unbelievably proud of what she's done, presumably in an attempt to balance out all of her previous comments, which she hopes everyone's forgotten by now.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
I do kind of have to ask, what version of the film is it that you're most proud of? Because there seems to have been a few. The rumours have constantly been coming out that Snow White has been undergoing reshoots for basically over the last 2 years, after Rachel Zegler's PR disaster. Originally filmed over 3 months in 2022, the release will be basically 3 years after they originally completed filming. Afterwards, the rumour goes that there was additional reshoots done in 2023, with the goal to being insert flashbacks of Snow White featuring actress Amelia Foucher as a younger version of Snow White, with more reshoots done afterwards. The more interesting part comes from another rumour from a source at that park place, which alleges that the reshoots were done for these reasons: to clean up the original version to exclude dwarfs from the final product, except one live actor. This was done to allow for CGI dwarfs to be inserted, and may have added an additional $30 million to the cost. Another set of reshoots was done because focus groups detested Snow White as she was portrayed. They brought the younger version in to try and soften the Snow White character, and alleges that a third set of reshoots just wrapped because the end result of that was still that the movie was incoherent and disjointed, so they attempted to align it more closely with the original movie, while still allowing Zegler to have her modern evil message, albeit one that is softer and less militant. And I guess we'll be able to get confirmation of that last one when we actually see the movie, because Zegler's comments about it 2 years ago were anything but soft.
Snow White has to learn a lot of lessons about coming into her own power and how to find her own agency. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. It's really wonderful.
So basically, if Snow White doesn't come in and just start beating you around the head with this message, then you know that some changes have been done. Disney thinks they have a winner on their hands and they're going to drive it towards female audiences as hard as they can. Well, we all saw how that went for Madam Web, didn't we? Where Madam Web spent most of their ad spend on TikTok, aiming to get a female audience in for it. And yeah, that didn't work. In fact, it finally taught some people in Hollywood that I don't know if women are enough to carry the box office here. I mean, males make up 65 to 70% of the superhero audience. And in the case of Madam Web, the percentage of female viewers was still only 46%, despite virtually all of the marketing being aimed at them. You think you're gonna do better in Snow White, do you? It's a really stupid plan. Let's see if it pays off. And so, with all of these problems already just at the core of the movie, the last thing you want is your actors causing trouble for you on the internet. And yet, that's exactly what Rachel Zegler decided to do. Unable to physically keep her mouth shut about anything. Just come out, talk about the movie, and shut your gob. No, Rachel Zegler is basically like hiring a nuclear weapon, which has already been set to detonate.
This carpet is a person with feelings.
It doesn't matter if you want to be a business that wants to make money and nothing else. She will drag you into trouble. Even when marketing her own movie, she still couldn't keep her mouth shut underneath the advertising. Because what? She forgets that there may be various people in the audience, and maybe you want to take in money for your product from all of them, especially as your co-star takes the opposite position. You could have used this opportunity to go, we don't care. No, we just want to make money, bros. That's all we're here for. Instead, Rachel Zegler, as ever, a wonder to the fans. They're at the forefront of her thoughts, as always. Her wildly inappropriate statement causing further damage to the film's promotional campaign, in which the trailers are already being ratioed, and has even pissed off fans of her co-star in the movie. Now, even people that would support the movie because they like the other actress are attacking the other actress in the pissing movie. It's just bad promotion and bad business all around, because Disney refused to put a muzzle on their actors, or at least haven't yet realized that they should go around hiring less problematic ones. Then again, Disney employees have the same worldview, so maybe you've got a deeper problem there, Disney. No, this obviously distracted people from giving a crap about Snow White, and instead, people started talking about Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot falling out. Obviously, tempers were high, and you've chosen two different sides of the battle and advertised it to the public. So when people are going, she genuinely can't stand being next to her, it's like, well, not exactly a happy face, is it? They even got likened to clips from The Boys. I've just met Homelander. And while people were going, Gal Gadot's total obliviousness makes this even funnier, I actually don't think it's obliviousness. I think it's professionalism. This is just how adults in the room act. You know, when you're an actress, you should be able to act as if you're happy and interested. Be able to act as if you're not a complete bitch. Of course, none of this will stop any of them eating themselves. Oh my god, replacing dwarfs with CGI, that's not progressive. I mean, good. I mean, I don't want to side with Disney, but to me, you just wrote a headline that go, replacing the 7 dwarves with CGI isn't evil. Disney said they wanted to avoid reinforcing stereotypes. Like what? That dwarves are dwarves? I'm not really sure what stereotype you're going for. We don't want to go for the stereotype that dwarves are short. I'm sorry? Because we didn't want to have stereotypes, we decided to just not employ them. Especially as they themselves were going, it boggles my mind that a network, instead of listening to a community, is listening to one person. That's just how much pull this one person has created in the society because of where he is on the level of popularity. Yes, and it is really personally beneficial if other people don't get to that level of popularity to compete with him on jobs. And over time, these opinions got even more bizarre. There's a huge problem with Disney's live-action Snow White trailer, again, about the dwarves. This trailer makes me kind of angry, and I'm like, what? My opinions on this matter have sharpened since the image was released, especially with new time bandits. Now he starts going, oh yeah, that's because dwarves lose out on jobs. Fair enough. But then he says, I'm still annoyed that Peter Jackson was not casting little people, you could say dwarf, it's fine, in Hobbit roles in Lord of the Rings. And he's like, yeah, but that's because the hobbits are little people. Dwarves are not just short people, it is a medical condition. And And so you can have like out of proportions and stuff. But the hobbits are just normal people shrunk. Therefore, because they have to still be in proportion, it actually does make more sense to have a normal sized person who then you shrink down so that proportions stay the same. There's nothing wrong with this. It's perfectly logical. And of course, the very diverse and progressive Rings of Power commits the same erasure. It has a colourful coalition, but includes 0 little people. Huzzah for actually, it is. Huzzah for evil. Actually, it is progress. In the stack, one's higher than the other, and so if you crush everyone else beneath you, that is moral, by their own ideology. There's a reason why you actively shun anyone who believes this stuff. But my favourite bit is, as he goes on, he decides to start calling it the LP community. The little person community. Like, he can say dwarves when it's referring to the animated dwarves, but anyone else has to be called LP. Whether or not the entire LP actor, LP roles. The only major show in history to have LP in it was Disney's Willow reboot. Well, there you go then. Look how that turned out. But as was written in IndieWire, Christian Lopez mentions, if you're a member of the LP community or disability community in general, you've seen this story before, the media frenzy, followed by backpedaling, followed by the eventual erasure of the disability altogether. Yes, but then again, look what you just did. Rather than calling them dwarves, you started calling them LPs because you were afraid to actually talk about the disability altogether, which erases it. Maybe people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, eh? And so it's no wonder then when dwarves came out themselves, and they weren't happy about it. Zach Roloff talked about how they updated, diversified Snow White, but went way backwards on the dwarf side. I hope Dinklage is happy. They aren't just taking away the dwarves and making Snow White, they're CGIing them. This isn't 1937. There are actually a lot of people with dwarfism walking around. Either focus on Snow White or own the dwarf representation. But the problem is, Disney did this to themselves. You heard how Rachel Zegler spoke about Dwarf White at the start.
She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
They did it because they wanted to embrace progress. And then people are, oh, I can't believe you've done something horrible. Of course they have. The entire ideology does something horrible. But everybody else, no, they want to use it for their own benefits. That's why they support it in the first place. Oh, I'm weak. I'm a victim. I can get something out of this. And then they wonder why it bites them. It's because the people involved were never motivated by trying to do the right thing in the first place. Instead, everybody got involved, all got on board the train for self-interest, for their own reasons, because they could get free stuff out of it, because they thought they could be lifted in positions which they haven't earned just because they ticked enough boxes. And then they're surprised when somebody else comes along who ticks more boxes. Or maybe that box, we can't allow that anymore. That makes you a bigot. Everybody's all on board until it backfires on them. The real issue is, nobody else can really defend you. Because if you've been arguing that the best person for the job should have got the job, and you go, okay, well, clearly they're the best fit for the job. But that isn't what people are cast on anymore. Everyone embraced these ideas because they thought they'd be better off. And it turns out, no, maybe you're the one people are stepping on to get a job, rather than you stepping on somebody else. Now, any movie which has gone through this many reshoots is going to be a disaster. Any movie based on the ideas that Rachel Zegler was speaking about at first is going to be a disaster. And I don't think any amount of reshoots can change something that ingrained in a movie. But at the end of the day, I find the drama interesting to look at from the outside in, but I have no dog in those fights. I just see this as everybody eating their own. They all got together and invented a way of life that stepped on the people who deserve to be there in order to enrich themselves. And then, once they kicked out all the people that should be there, well, now they're stepping on each other too. And so at this point in this fight, I'm not defending anybody, but I will stand back and laugh. And at 300 or 400 million, whatever this movie will end up costing, there is no way this is going to make their money back. And that is funny. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.